Okay, it feels like I've been screwing around the past couple of videos, so let's try and get something cool working. I'm going to work on interactions and see if I can get some kind of tests going. So I'll run through a load of tests, pass in some actions, pass in some actual context, like an NPC or a hero or an enemy or something. So let's copy and paste this. Say enemies. Okay, enemy one. A lot of this stuff's going to be pretty much the same. Give them a name. Give it a component or a health component. And we'll just give them 10. Alright, so weapons is still just the materials file, so I didn't actually do anything with it. Just add in a short sword. And the reason I'm doing this is probably laziness. If I copy and paste this, I don't need to change a lot of words from, say, short sword to the new weapon type. I just need to change the number at the end. And I guess it's also a running tally. If I see weapon 1, weapon 2, weapon 3, I know how many there are and things. But I think the biggest point is probably laziness, so that's maybe a good example of what not to do. Um, I guess maybe I should rename all of this to something more specific, like I've done here. Okay. Weapon, short sword. We don't need that though. We probably want to be using the name component ID. That means we can just call it short sword. And then component, yep, I've already got material set up, so we're going to add a material to this weapon. material equals get component. Is it just value again? And then here would be, I guess, the ID. Material iron material ID, maybe something like that. So how do we get, actually we want the entity ID. So how do we get the material iron entity? I've wrote this, but it doesn't really make sense. Maybe I can have just an ID that I attach to everything, and that gives me a way of finding it. Is that bad though? Yeah, there's nothing really telling the system that these are materials. So maybe that was the point of this. Maybe that was the point of this, I mean. Mm, what am I trying to do here? It would be nice if there was some way of knowing what an entity ID is. Right, maybe I just go for it then. ID component. So in materials, I can add something here. ID component ID. Now I think we're getting kind of mucky. Maybe instead of ID, we call it unique ID, just something that's a bit more than just ID. Alright, so here we can say to skin. And just kind of do this for all of it, really. So in here, iron material unique ID material iron. So now we've told this weapon that its material is this material iron. So when we want to find, anytime we want to perform a calculation that involves the material, this has a record of material iron, and then it can search all entities for a unique ID that is material iron. Seems a bit wasteful, not gonna lie, definitely seems a bit wasteful. We'll see how the performance is. Maybe this sort of system isn't going to be so good in a non-dots or ECS environment. Yeah, well, let's see. We'll keep going. We'll push on for now. So just from doing this, now we know the short sword has this much hardness and anything else we decide to add here. Um, do I have an attack damage component? So if you attack with this weapon, it will do that much damage. But then there is one lot of damage if someone proficient uses it, and there's one lot of damage if someone that's not proficient uses it. Do we need to care about that right now? Because that's more about whatever rules I decide to put into the game. So let's just temporarily put in an attack damage component. I'll put damage min, damage max. See a little bit of ambiguity here. This description kind of sounds like you can attach this to a character or an enemy, and then this caps the damage. So if they try and deal 99 but their damage max is 50, then it will cap it at 50. That's kind of what this sounds like. So this might need a bit of a rewrite. Attack damage, damage min. I guess, you know what, let's just make it 1 and 1 or 0 and 1, and then that can be changed when adding it to an entity. So let's see the weapon short sword, local attack damage ID. Weapon short sword attack damage. Oh, what did I call it again? Damage min, damage max. That's the one. Damage min, damage max. Alright, so the iron short sword can deal maybe 1, I don't know, 6 or 8 or whatever it is, 1 to 6. And I should really create another one just to show that it does matter what you have equipped or what you're attacked with. Okay, so hopefully that's all changed and I didn't miss any. So there's a great sword. It's made of iron, and this one can be 2 to 12. So now I need to build some kind of interaction manager. And we'll put it in here just for now. Maybe I'll come up with a better place for it. It would be nice if we can keep it static, just use it anywhere. Maybe void, maybe it'll be async, and then with some kind of task. So let's plan this out. What do we need? Need some kind of user or origin. We need some kind of target or targets. So let's jot down some interactions we can think of. Open a door, loot a chest, attack an enemy, pick up a sword, fill up a flask with water. What else? Throw a dagger at an enemy. Any weird ones? I guess talk to NPC. Steal a gem from NPC. Alright, so let's try and... I've already got some idea in mind of how this should work, but I'm just going to run some simple logic tests to see if this is covered. So if we have a user, we have target or targets, we have an action, and then usually there's some kind of extra data. So additional data. I'm not sure if I've already outlined some of this in a previous video or not. So let's see, if we're opening a door, it would be, user would probably be party leader, the target would be the door, the action would be open, and the additional data would be null. No additional data, I don't think. Loot a chest, so again, that'd be party leader or rogue, I guess, whoever was opening the chest. The target would be the chest. The action would be maybe open again or pick up or something like that. Or yeah, I'm not sure if you're opening a chest, it would maybe open up a container window or something like that. So that might just be use. The action might be use the chest. And then additional data, nothing again. Attack an enemy, so it's going to be attacker. The enemy is the target. Oh yeah, cast fireball on group of enemies. That's another good one. So the enemy would be the target. The action would be attack, probably with a weapon or something. No additional data again. Pick up a sword. That's going to be whatever party member is picking up the sword. The target would be the sword. Action would be pick up. No additional data. Party member would be filling up the flask with water. Now the target. I think the target would be the water source, whether that's a tile or a tap or whatever. The action would be fill up or fill, and then the additional data would be what are you filling up, so that would be the flask. So party member is the user again when you're throwing a dagger at an enemy. Oh no, I guess it would be attacker again. Target would be the enemy. Action would be throw, and then the additional data is what are you throwing, so that would be a dagger. Talk to an NPC, would be talker. NPC would be the target. Action would be talk. No additional data. Steal a gem, that'd be thief is the user. NPC would be the target. Gem? No, hold on, what we're talking about. The action would be steal, and then it would be what are you stealing is the additional data, so that'd be gem. And then caster would be the user for the fireball thing. Targets would be a group of enemies. The action is cast a spell. And then the additional data there is what spell are you casting, so it'd be fireball. So far, I've got a lot of different types of interactions here, a lot of different actions, and this seems to cover it. This seems to work. So let's try and build this then, since it seems to work. User targets action, additional data. So interact, I guess we just have it in here. Int is going to be user entity ID. Int array, I guess, for target entity IDs. Action. Are actions entities as well? And then additional entity IDs, I guess. We're just making everything entities. That's just what we're doing. So we need some kind of some way of holding functions. So this might be more Lua script. I hope I'm even pronouncing that correctly. So that's just the way I've heard it be said before. So in here, I've got the Lua script. Maybe this should be its own static class somewhere with its own script stored so that anywhere can use it. You know what? Maybe we don't want to be cross-contaminating these different globals that we're passing in here. We might want our own script in the interaction manager. And then we'll probably have this again to set it up. Oh. Okay, but we don't need this part. And we don't really need these, but I'd like to leave two examples in, one with the function, one with the action, just so that I know quickly how to add another one. And then in the entity manager, this is what we have here for components. I think we're going to end up doing a similar thing for interactions. So say it was interaction dictionary. So in here, uh, oh, this would need to be static. So thinking of the way we're building modules, if we have base components and we want to add in maybe base actions, we'll create some kind of action list. Let's just take one from our example here. Say attack, pick up. Yeah, attack and pick up. So we do need to reveal, or what's it called again? Struggling to think, but basically we do need to give access to the Lewis script some different functions or methods. So let's create one that is public static void add action. And this could be what we use to create action entities, I guess. So last call, do we need the action to be an entity, or should it just be a string? Hmm. Let's just make them entities for now. So if we add an action, we're going to have action ID. It wouldn't be that one actually. It would be this one. So what we would do is we would run add action, and we'd pass in the action ID. And in here we would create the entity and stuff. Mm. And we need another component that says this isn't action. You know, whether this is a good way of setting this up or not, it shows off quite well how easy it is to add to this system. I really hope it works out in the end. I think it'll be a lot of fun, just completely rebuilding different modules for this game. So you can have medieval fantasy, but then completely rewrite it to be a Western. I think I've said that before, but that's something that's been playing in my mind, making some kind of Western RPG at some point. Anyway, so value would be equal to empty string until we change it. So value is just the ID of the action. The action ID, the entity. I don't know if this explains it well enough what it is. Maybe that's a problem. Um, okay, so back here, oh, I see, because this is already used here. Action component ID is what we mean. Yeah, there we go. So we're adding this component, and then we will get the component. Right, what comes back from this? Dyn value. Action ID component, and then can we use, this is where we might actually use the table set. And the value would be just value. Set value equal to is it new number? Oh no, new string. And it'd be action ID. What's the problem here? And you know what? I will just debug log just to make sure it's actually changed, because I haven't even checked if this is how you do this yet. It's just something I stumbled upon and it looks right. So we want to echo out action ID component dot table dot get, and then we'll get the value. So if we use the Lewis script and then add action, although we're going to be adding the actions from the module loader, so it's going to be part of this anyway, I think. Alright, so let's see if we can get this to add an action, because then we'll get this debug log message. And that will just let us know if it's working or not. Yeah, I don't think we probably need this if we're building the interactions through the modules anyway. So we've added the add action. I still can't think of that word. So annoying. Anyway. Alright, so here, base actions, we're going to add action. We doing here? We just doing that, add action, and then passing in the action ID. See, this is maybe overkill because of how little is being coded here. This doesn't really add anything to this. We know that this is an action list. We've got them here. We can probably just skim that down like that. And let's see if it's even working. Let's just see how far it gets. Attempted to index a nil value. Module loader 169. 104. Index a nil value. Well, due to me adding this most recently and getting errors, I'm thinking the problem is here. So we create an entity, add component. So we do have a component, this action. Is it this? Is it because I don't have anything inside here? So if we run add action, what happens? It comes through here, takes the action ID, and then it runs add action. Oh, it's just action, not action ID. So that's why we were looking for action, we were looking for a component called action ID, not finding it, and then trying to set that in here, I think. So that was maybe the problem. Well, maybe one of the problems, but not the entire problem. Hmm. Okay, let's just start debug logging everything. Does it get that far or does it break? Didn't look like it did any of that. So that's good. That means it's breaking before that. Load components. Um, so it's this. Oh, I'm not even running this part of the code, which is interesting because it's breaking without this running. Does this stop it from breaking? No. Is it this? No. So if it says loaded, that means it worked. And then it breaks after that. Huh. We try and take all of this out. I don't think this is running, so I don't think it should be causing problems, but you never know. Yeah, okay, good stuff. It's still, the problem is there, so that's good. Means it's nothing to do with this. So components, what is after components? Let's see. Materials. Ooh. Oh, yeah, it doesn't run materials, or at least it says it doesn't successfully do it. So it's something in here. Unique ID component. Oh, is it a spelling thing? ID. This is probably unique ID. That's maybe the problem. So yeah, that's a good example there of why you probably want to be testing each part of the code as you do it. I must have just added a lot of that unique ID stuff without actually checking it afterwards. Not a bad bug. No, fairly easy to spot and fix after I got it. But it could have been much worse if it was something more complicated. Let's see. Now if I add base actions, maybe at the end. And let's see, give me the errors. Give me all the errors. Okay. So something broke after weapons, which looks to be the actions. So again, it didn't actually run any of the debug stuff. So what's the issue? Attempt to call a nil value. We're calling a nil value. 6 probably won't be any help, but 101. No, we're just loading the module again. Okay, so it's add action, and we're running. Oh no! Did I rip out add action and then didn't put it back? Okay. So I think it's just string we need. This is the interaction manager. Add action. Action ID, and then take the rest out. Now let's see if that has solved the problem. Alright, so attack, and it's 6. Okay. Oh, the entity ID is 6, okay. All right. So the actions are being created. Oh yeah, then it was getting the value, which was attack. All right. So we are actually setting the action ID. Cool, cool. So we've created the actions. Now we need to create the interactions, which will go at the end. Interaction list. Yeah, we'll just add in those two. Add interaction. So then we're going to pass in the ID that we want to interact with. And now we need to pass in the, I guess, method for interacting, which I can't remember how you do the functions inside of here. So I'll just ask AI to remind me. Okay, that doesn't look like what I remember. So I'll maybe just ask some other questions of, can I just pass in a function here? So instead of this object, can I just pass straight in a function and then add that to some sort of dictionary? Because essentially this doesn't have to be dynamic value. Maybe we can just put function in here. And so anytime someone passes in this entity ID for an action, we'll take that, get the entity, we'll get the action component from it, get the action string from that, and then we will use that as the key to get the function, and then we pass in the user, the targets, and additional info, and then carry out some sort of logic. So that way, we can set up some base interactions, but then through the modules, we can overwrite them, we can change how they work, we can add to them, and it just, again, it's a whole system where it can just completely be rewritten, overwritten, or just, yeah, just added to or left the way it is. Do I have this C sharp? So when I asked it if I can put a function in there, it told me something I already knew, which is to just use the func using delegates, but that's C sharp strictly, I think. Whereas I would like to use the Lua script stuff so it can be just overwritten using the modules and stuff. So now I've asked it about Lua and it's given me an example without any C sharp and only using Lua. So it's not really getting what I'm asking, which is my fault. I'm not explaining myself well enough. Okay, well, it looks like dynamic value is still what we're looking for here. And then I think we just add the code to, it's like a string, I guess, and then we'll use doString. Okay, we can get the Lua function and then store that. Uh, add action. So let's see, if we go public static void add interaction here, action ID again, but then probably need interaction. Additional data. So this is tricky because now I don't know how this is supposed to interact with our outside. Oh, I guess we do have get component, right? Get component from entity, and that's where all the data should be stored. So we'll pass in user. Name component ID equals name. So if we grab the name like that, and then we can use the name, just for the sake of getting something out here, we'll just use targets 0. Assume there's something here. And that means we've got the name. And we can do return username.value attacks target name.value. And then we just store this whole thing like we do for all the other ones. And then we just call the interaction function and pass in what we need. So if we do add interaction, let's see what we have. And it'll be dynamic value interaction. Add component is what we're looking for. Let's see. Alright, it just sets it like that. Okay. So this will be interaction dictionary action ID equals interaction. Add interaction, so it's going to be a string and a down value like all the other ones we've done. Action ID interaction. So now when I interact, can use well, we need to get the action string. So entity manager get component from entity. So we pass in the action entity and we're going to get the action component. So it's just action. And there again, the reason I keep typing this out is just for safety. I don't want to just have this written in here somewhere. I would rather have it typed out and it's a bit more obvious what we're talking about. This isn't just a random string. It's got a bit of context attached to it. So this is down value of action component, and then action ID is going to be action component dot table dot get value, I think. let's just print that out. In that game state, we can try and interact. We'll just pass in some dummy values. Let's grab the first hero. Do we have a component hero or not? No. Uh, okay, let's add a hero component and we'll add an enemy component. And there won't be any value on it. We are just using this as a tag. And same with the enemy one. Hero. There we go. We've added the component. We don't need to get it and change the value because all we're doing is adding it. Entities, enemies. Am I even calling that? Nope. So this will be enemy 1. We'll add the enemy component ID. So in here we can just grab a hero and an enemy. So we'll grab the hero and then we'll grab the enemy. Alright, so now we should have a hero and an enemy. So hero entity ID. Is that no good? New int. There we go. What action are we trying to do? I need to write a helper that does this a lot better. So instead of me having to keep typing this out, it will just run it and then pass the results back. Action entity ID. Action component is going to be guess what action are we looking for here? And this is maybe why putting actions into entities is maybe a bit silly. Maybe it could just be a dictionary or an array somewhere. Because if I know what I'm looking for here, why not just pass that straight in? Why not just pass the string straight in instead of having to find the entity ID for it? And I guess with this interaction dictionary, we can just have this, the keys is the list of interactions or the actions, I guess. Right, so if we add an action, we don't need the action to be anything other than a string, right? All right, let's be a bit more sensible then. If we're doing this, we don't need it to be a component. So we'll take out the action component. So when we add an action, we don't do that. We don't get the entity. We don't add anything. What we want to do is equals, yeah, new dynamic value or null. We allowed null. Yeah, set it to nothing. So in this example, do we even need that, or do we only need add interaction? Probably just interactions. Is there ever any need to add an empty action if we can just jump straight to setting the action to the interaction? Probably not. Let's get rid of that as well. So we don't do add action anymore. Attack and pickup, we're doing it here anyway. Yep, okay. Get rid of that. Make sure we get rid of it in here. So we'll just say attack is the action we want to do. Additional entity IDs. This should probably be sort of defaulted to an empty array or null. So we can just leave that out if we don't have a need for it. And this is now a string, action ID. Oh, okay, so now we don't need to grab the action like that. Now we just grab the interaction from dictionary. If it doesn't contain that, we will return. Otherwise, we will grab it and then we will get interaction. Is that what I called it? Um, so we call this function, but the arguments are in this. Okay, so this would be user entity ID. Okay, this looks like it's gonna work, but I don't know if it is. Um, um, the next thing is the target, which is an array. So it's new number array. How do we do an array? Ah, you need to add a table rather than a dynamic value. So here, we'll say targets equals new value. Okay, so we got to add this here. So for targets dot Right, so we need to, it says we need to create it with a specific size. Or do some array list manipulation. Okay, so if we just wanted a list of dynamic values equals new list like that, then we can add new number, and then at the end we just pass in targets dot to array. Time value dot table, new table. This is all really interesting stuff. And the more I learn about it, the more possibilities open up. Right, so new table, and then we just pass in the array table. Oh, I see. I also don't like this module loader Lewis script. It really makes me think we just need a Lewis script class of its own, and then everything will just pull that and use that. But for now, I just want to get it working to see if it's going to be suitable for what I want to do. So we create the table, and then we get the array, and then we loop through each item in the array, or I guess it's the list for now. And then we get the table. Apparently it's 1 based rather than 0 based, so that would be like that to create the table. And then you make a new table here. And that counts as a single value rather than an array of values, which allows you to pass it in. Whew. Now we need to do the same again for the additional entity IDs. Jeez, oh. Target table. Again, this might be, you can maybe extract this and refactor a bit, make it more reusable, so we can just run this piece of code twice for the different lists. Because it's essentially the same thing, it's an integer array for both of them. So this doesn't really need to be different. Private static, then value create table. create down value table, and we'll just pass in integer array. So here we just say, we'll just call it table, and this won't be targets, this will be values. For each value in the int array, values add new number value, and then for each of the values we add it to the table values and return. No, we return down value, new table, and then table. Okay, awesome. So we can say here down value targets equals create that, and then we pass in target entity IDs, and then same thing here, additional additional data. I don't know if that explains what it is well enough, but let's go with it. So here we can pass in targets, and here we can pass in additional data. And everything breaks. Can I use local variable or function top level statement? Why is it something silly? Is it just that? Yeah, so if I save here, it's maybe something like this is broken. Um, call so arguments, this is no good. What am I not seeing? That, there we go. Okay. So now this presumably call will call whatever this interaction is from the dictionary, pass in the user, the targets, any additional data, and then it's up to us to make sure we're performing the logic properly. So interaction, if we run attack, it'll try and grab a name from the user, we'll try and grab a name from the target, and then it will just say attacks, which obviously isn't finished, but this will at least show us that it's capable of doing what we want it to do. So let's see, interact, hero entity, hero's one enemy, the action ID is attack. There's no additional data to pass in, so we hope that this would say, when we run the game, it will do the health stuff, 30, 25, whatever it is, and then at the bottom, it'll say such and such attacks such and such, which I think is Algarest attacks a skeleton. Please. Please. Okay. It's broken. Can I convert nil entity? So it finishes loading entities, heroes. Is the enemies broken? My brain wants to say it's because this is empty. This, but I don't think it can be that because this is empty as well, and that one seems to pass. See, it says loaded, which means it was fine. It does the enemy's part and then it breaks. Is there more? Are there more issues with the enemy? Let's see. We create an entity. Ah, hero 1. I didn't quite catch all of that. Okay. So what was the other issue here? Maybe nothing? Unexpected symbol near interaction. Interpreter, which means it may be inside here. Is it this? Is that not how you do this? Let's just run it again, in case it was the enemy breaking it, but there might be a bit more to this. Unexpected symbol near interaction. So it might just be that I don't know the syntax here. Maybe it's something like func or whatever. So let's have a look again. Is it this? This looks okay. Oh, Lua tables are one indexed, so this is no good anyway. But I don't think that's causing the problem. I think that's just another problem. Maybe that was the one problem. We'll try again, but I kind of feel like it's maybe something else going on. Yeah, there's still a problem. Um, Unexpected symbol. I think that's usually the problem when it's something like this shouldn't be here if it's meant to be something else or whatever. Alright, this it's saying that it's probably because I am naming the function. It should be something more like that is what it's claiming. But that makes me wonder, how do I even call this then? Like what, how do I even get this? Because in my code I've done table get interaction. So if interaction doesn't exist, I don't know what I'm getting. It says it says just use get one because it's the first thing. Let's try it. Let's try it. I really don't like the look of that, but maybe this is just how you do it. So get one. Let's make interaction function equals one, just so we know what this is. Get the interaction function. Alright, so if this is just like that, let's see if this does the job. Now, I've definitely seen function and then a name like that. I've definitely seen that. Let's try again. Okay, so instead of doing this, I can maybe do function interaction equals this. How did I do this earlier? Let's see. I had functions inside this health thing where I would just do like take damage. and it would do something, and then it would say end. I'm sure that was just okay. Here equals. Huh? Oh yeah, this wouldn't make any sense. And that probably would have broken the rest of the script, so the rest of it wouldn't have run. No way, no way, come on. You know what? Let's look up actual documentation. Okay, it looks like I've maybe figured out what was going on. So this is no good. This is good, but this is even better. There we go. So I think this was what the missing link in the knowledge was. I think we have to have the thing here, the key or the identifier, whatever it is, that is equal to the function. And now we can use interaction to grab this. Okay. Let's try out. Okay, still broken. Wonderful. Um, Attempt to call a nil value. Yeah. Okay, so is this coming back nil still? Yeah, every call just keeps doing the same thing. All right. Tricky. This this looks like it should be right now. Maybe it's something else inside of here that's the problem now. Alright, how do we check values inside of here again? Maybe there's something going on. Is it print? Actually, attempt to call a nil value is happening long before we get to the end, which means it's nothing to do with this code. This is not the issue right now. Is this a problem? Okay, right. So that was one of the problems. Object reference not set to instance of object. This is something we can work with though. This is 32. Oh yeah, we don't want to do this if it's null. That's a silly silly point on my part. So we'll say additional data equals null. But then we can say if additional data entity IDs does not equal null, we will do something. Okay, and then when we're calling it inside, if we need it, then we'll use it. All right, let's see if that's done the trick. Okay. Interaction 27. Um, oh, I've already used that. Okay. Let's see if that actually gives something back before breaking. Maybe it'll say null. All right, function, interesting. Object reference, not set instance of object. Generic list. Is it something here? Or is this what's breaking? No, no, because it would break up here if it was. All right, let's go into debug mode. User and we'll go for the targets as well, and then additional data. see if any one of these comes back with something bad. So 2 is the hero. Function, table, and null. That's all expected. Is there something here? How do I... Oh, okay. So when we set up the Lua script, we want to also add a global for debug log. I don't want to return anything. Just do that. Maybe an empty action then. Okay. Oh, actually I do want to pass in a string. That's what I'm logging out. Output. Debug log output. So if I use this debug log inside the Lua code, we'll see if something comes out. Let's cut this out and see if it still does, if it breaks. Okay, it still breaks, so it means the content isn't a problem. Is this still no good? I wonder if this last null is actually a problem. It maybe needs to be a dynamic value, even if it's an empty one. So when we create this table, alright, so the issue here, we never pass it through as null, we will pass it through as an empty array. How do I make this constant that is just nothing? Oh, okay. So let's just stick with null, and then in the code here, uh, I will split this up like I had before. So, uh, if it's null, what am I trying to do here? What am I trying to do? Come on, get the head back in the game. Dynamic value equals that. We pass in that or an empty one. There we go. So if this exists, we'll pass that in, but if it doesn't, we'll pass in an empty one, and that will still give us a dynamic value. I don't know if this is going to fix it, but it's probably a better way of doing this anyway. So it means we still have an object coming through at the end rather than just null. Can't convert table. Oh, it seems like something else is up now. Cannot convert a table to a CLR type system string. So where did that happen? Interaction Manager 29. Ugh. Okay, that's refreshing. That means that it is at least a function when it's like this. What's the problem then? It's just documentation. Right, let's see. Maybe I should be looking up Moonsharp documentation as well. Gonna make me download this? Come on. Ugh. So call nothing? Is it to do with the way I've added these interactions? Um, this does do string to add this into the script. But at the bottom, yeah, I guess we do run do string, and what that does is runs this whole thing, which calls add interaction, which is a part of the C sharp, and then it stores this whole thing to be used later, which is where we use the table.get to get the interaction, and then we call it. But for some reason, it screws up. Can't convert nil to type int32. So that's maybe to do with the missing int. Can't convert a table to type string. Is it this? Is this a table? That's the problem, isn't it? Oh my god. We're trying to use the component as a string instead of getting the value from the component. Wow. And the return isn't actually going anywhere either. So what we want to be doing here is debug log this whole string. And we don't have that at the end. Algorest attack skeleton. Wow. Okay. So that's very exciting. Because this means we're getting components off of entities inside of the Lua script. So really, instead of doing get the name and display that like some message, obviously what we can do going forward is if we're attacking, get the weapon component or get the equipped item from the user and then make sure it's the weapon. Check the weapon damage or the attack damage component of the weapon entity. Then we'll roll from min damage to max damage, and then we can get the health component of the target entity and then reduce it. So yeah, it's great. This is going to be a lot of fun. I've no idea what the efficiency is going to be like if we're going to get a eventual frame rate slowdown. But really, I don't see why it would. All we're doing is looking through dictionaries for data and then doing something with it. So it's looking good, guys. Bit of a long video, just a lot of debugging, a lot of trying to figure stuff out. I think I might leave it all in just because it's might be interesting for someone trying to get better at debugging, or even if you want to pick the faults in my debugging. I'll always take criticisms. Thanks for watching. I'll see you.